I apologise, the video just cut off. I was talking about the tactics of the Normans in the battle. So that idea that the retreat worked was used again. So there's effective tactics of the Normans realising that the retreat could work and they could use it in battle was really effective. We also have the flag system that the Normans used. They used a flag system to direct troops on the battlefield to make it easier for them to manoeuvre. And William himself, on horseback, directing troops from the back of the field, and he's able to oversee and realise what's happening in the battle. Again, can communicate well. That good communication is going to be really important. We've also, so that kind of goes in hand with my next kind of factor for William's victory. We've had preparation, we've had tactics. It's the leadership. When you look at the two people, the two men and the way they led their army, William's preparation shows his skill, his qualities. When he's on the battlefield, his communication is really important. That confidence he gives his people, not just with a papal banner, but by lifting his helmet and saying, I'm still alive, let's keep going. And Harold Godwinson is tired. He's got to persuade his army to fight one battle and then come back and fight another battle. It's very, very difficult. And also Harold Godwinson fights in the middle of his army, and he's surrounded and he is fighting Normans off. But actually, can he communicate well with his troops? And finally, chance can also have a bit to play with the Battle of Hastings. When we look at the fake retreat, that original idea was born out of chance, that panic from the Normans when they think that William has died. The fact that it worked is by pure luck. We also have the fact that the wind changed at the right time so that William could move his troops at a time when Harold Godwinson was not prepared for battle. So chance can play a huge role in this as well. So William wins the Battle of Hastings. Harold Godwinson is dead, shot in the eye or not, he is dead, and our new King of England is William of Normandy. But he is a new king. He's a king that has taken over a country, he's from a foreign land, and he's trying to establish his control. So what does he do? There's several things he does, and we need to look at what those things are. Immediately after the Battle of Hastings, a lot of people in the southeast of England who hear of this victory don't accept William as king straight away. So William sends out a couple of crucial messages. For example, he goes to Romney, which is in the southeast of England, and he kills the key leaders of the area, burns down buildings, and so for the first 2 weeks he goes through some of key places in the southeast of England, killing important Anglo-Saxon earls, or not earls, sorry, lords or knights, and actually burning down villages to send out a message, I'm here, you must accept me as king. Any lord who pledged their allegiance to William after the Battle of Hastings was able to keep their land. Anybody who was not was actually replaced. And lots of lords or knights who had died in the Battle of Hastings fighting for Harold Godwinson, their positions were taken by Normans straight away, people who had been loyal and supported William during the Battle of Hastings. One of the biggest ways, though, that William establishes his control is by castles. Castles are crucial in securing control for William after the Battle of Hastings. He builds around, or William and future, around 500 castles during his reign in charge of England. That's an amazing amount, dotted all over the country, to kind of prove his power and to show and to make sure there was that protection from rebels. So the main type of castle we know is a Motte and Bailey castle, that famous castle with the Motte, which is where the important earl or lord would live, and the Bailey, the courtyard where troops would rest and equipment could be stored. And obviously stone castles start to be built later on in the 1000s to be even more of a formidable threat for anybody trying to attack the Normans. But why do you build castles? What's the whole point? We need to think of the key strands or the key reasons why William built castles. So they're a base for patrols, so you can keep troops there, and if you want to go out to attack rebels or to kind of show your power, it's a good base for rest. It's also a symbol of power, the fact that some castles were built from the materials from local villages, the fact that it would be on a hill overlooking a village or a town would show, Norman power. We're here to stay. It's intimidation, it's that symbol of power, it's that intimidation for the local population, as well as being the protection for the lord or the earl or the Norman who has taken over. And also it's a good strategic, castles are important for strategy, especially on places on the border with Wales, on the border with Scotland. Castles can be a good protection to prevent any potential rebellions there. So castles built for strategic importance, for defence, as a base, and for intimidation and a symbol of power. How else, one other thing to think about, we've got castles, and we've talked about some of the things he's done as well, giving important positions to Normans over the Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Saxons keeping land if they are loyal. We also need to think about the rebels, the people that went against William and how he dealt with them. And I always like to think of William dealing with rebellions in three ways. Whenever people rebel against him, I say one of those ways is by force. So when does he use force to show his strength and actually overcome rebels? Some good examples. In the southwest, around Exeter, there was some troublesome earls who tried to not give up their lands to the Normans. William lays an 18-day siege to Exeter to kind of prove his power until they give in and surrender. Edwin and Morcar, those two guys that had protected Harold Godwinson, or had fought against Harold Hardrada in the north in 1066. In 1068, they rebel and they cause disruption in the north of England. William builds more castles in response and sends his full military might, so Edwin and Morcar surrender. We also have the harrying of the north, which is probably the best example of where William uses his force. Harrying of the north in response to northern rebellions from people like Edwin and Morcar. The harrying of the north is William moves around the north of England and lays waste to much of the land. He destroys the crops, he burns down villages and sends out a message. Even if you're not involved in a rebellion, the fact that you haven't protected my kingdom means that you are guilty as well. Destroys the crops. They say something like 80% of Yorkshire was destroyed by the harrying of the north, and it's a really, really strong message. Another rebellion with Herod the Wake in the east of England. Herod the Wake, they tried to use force, the Normans. They send in the army, but it doesn't work. Something else has to work for them. And that leads us on to discussion. Another way that William can actually overcome rebellions is by discussion and persuasion. So for Herod the Wake, who was laying siege to who took over the island of Ely in the east of England, one tactic for him was to persuade and bribe some monks to give up the position and give a secret route into the island of Ely until William's forces were able to make them surrender. So that bribery, that discussion worked there. We also have in Scotland some rebels up in the north of England thinking about working with King Malcolm to rebel in the north. The Treaty of Abernethy is signed with King Malcolm to agree to lay an end to that potential rebellion as well. So discussion and bribery being used by William as well. The last one is by giving people responsibility. And our best example of that is the Marcher Lords. In Wales, or on the border of Wales, certain important lords were given basically their own free rein to build castles that they wanted, to gather their own military forces, to collect their own taxes on the border of Wales, and also the same with the border with Scotland, places like Durham. These important lords in those important positions were given almost full responsibility for an area, didn't have to ask king for permission for taxes and for soldiers, and that could be used to control those really high pressure points on the border with Scotland and Wales. So William has dealt with it through bribery and discussion, by force, and by giving responsibility, which shows us how William was able to gain control. So we've gone on the journey across these two videos. Sorry the first one cut out, but we've gone from the succession crisis, Battle of Fulford Gate, Stamford Bridge, Hastings, and then William establishing his control. There you go.